Hey everyone, today I'm creating a wide variety of cards using a Spellbinders card kit. I've decided that I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging on myself, and I'm not going to use the ephemera that came in the pack. So at the bottom of the screen you can see there's an ephemera pack. I try and use everything else that I can in the kit, including the cardstock. There's 20 one-sided pattern papers. There are 8 card bases and envelopes, a bunch of sticker sheets, sequins. There is some faux tape and some double-sided tape as well. And so I'm trying to use every single piece that I can. I find ephemera is an excellent way to finish off cards when I use a full paper pad and when I am using a sketch. So I'm going to put that aside and challenge myself to see what I can come up with. I should mention as well what this card kit is. It's called Spring Delight. I will put some links below to the Spellbinders website. I am an affiliate, so if you use those links, then I'll get a small commission at no cost to you. They have a really good sale going on at the moment at the time of me recording this and posting the video. This kit, I believe, is about $23, $24 US, and some of their older card kits are even $15 or $16. I think they're $15.75. And there's loads of doorbusters and all the cool things that they normally have at Spellbinder sales. So I'll put a link below in case you need it of whatever I've used today. All right, so here I'm just sorting through, and it's very unusual for me to use coloured cardstock for bases of a card. Or not for bases, but for the matting layer. I don't normally use thick cardstock. I normally use coloured paper or some Kraft. But for this one, I'm trying to use what's in the kit, and I'm especially trying to use all of the pattern papers themselves. So I'm trying to merge them together and decide which ones go with which. I had a little bit of trouble with that, pool coloured cardstock because it's really not the colour of the blues in the kit. So it gave me probably the most grief out of all of them, but I'm pretty sure I worked out how to use it in the end. Now, the first approach that I'm taking here is I'm cutting down some of these pattern papers to create a 4 inch by 5 1/4 inch panel. This means that when I add it to a card base, which is what I've just done there, it will give me a nice white border around the edge. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm procrastinating and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So I just thought if I just get some paper onto some card bases, that would be a really good place to start. In terms of using card sketches, I did not use any sketches today, and because I create a lot of cards, there's some techniques and sketches that become quite familiar to you, so you won't see me quoting what card sketch I've used, and if it is a card sketch that someone has posted online or has claimed as their own, then I apologise for not giving credit, but I've probably learnt something from you in the past because I am using it again just from memory. So couple of these little 2 inch by 3 inch rectangles that I'm putting here in the middle. I'm also trying, by the way, you might have noticed, to not do a lot of matting layers. So for some of these cards I did, but for many of them I just put the pattern paper directly on top to see if I could make that work. So here you can see that I've got the pink background and then I've got the wavy paper here. That also got cut down into some smaller pieces. So I'm trying to use up the entire 6x6 at the same time in this little set of cards that I'm creating. And then I will move on to another set of cards and I'll use different pattern paper for those. So I kind of do them in little mini batches. Now, I know that a lot of creators have a very clean workspace and they bring out the items and they make the card one by one. So you've got a really clear view of what they're doing. And I don't do that. So I apologize if you find that annoying to watch. But for me, I kind of spread things around and I'm trying to make sure that I'm using it up. And if I can see it, then I'll use it. The other thing is I don't do any pre-planning with my videos. I don't do this full-time. I have a full-time job. So when I'm creating, I record what I'm creating and then I try and turn that into videos that I can share with others so that you can see, I guess, how I'm using my supplies and maybe give you some ideas on how you can use up the things that you have in your stash. So you can see here with this one, I have on my desk a few random bits in the bottom right-hand corner. And also on the left-hand side, actually, these are just things from my stash from previous projects. So you can see on the right-hand side, the little postage style with the white and the blue. That was from when I did some slimline cards. And then on the left-hand side, I used one of the Spellbinders hex die sets, which was a stacked die set. And I created some of those little elements that they kind of look like chipboard because they've got about 4 or 5 layers of cardboard underneath. So I have all of those sitting there ready just in case I can use some of those while I'm making, I guess, hodgepodge cards today. They're all very, very different and random. Now this pattern paper here was my absolute favourite of the bunch. It is a gorgeous colour pink. Now I do not make a lot of pink cards. Well, I kind of do because a lot of my supplies have pink in, but they would not be my first choice. But with this one, this is absolutely gorgeous. Just, I think it's the musky pink and then the sketchy white butterflies on it. And then I decided to match that up with the navy blue, so it's a beautiful contrast. And then with these little spare rectangles that I had in my stash, these were created for a project using, I think, my MFT, I don't know if they're called the horizontal or vertical, probably the horizontal cover strips or something. I'll put a link below if they're still available. But if you cut the full 4 strips, you can put them on the front of a card, evenly spaced apart, and it gives you a really nice base layer for building upon. And so I have quite a few of those left in different colours, and they're just in my stash there underneath those stickers on the right. So I've added a couple of rectangles to add some interest, and then right now I'm using the puffy stickers. Now, puffy stickers are not something that I would normally add to a card or normally use, but the way I've done these, I just put a simple word on top of the pattern paper, and then I have got these little wooden butterflies from my stash, and just the simplicity of this means that that beautiful pattern paper really shines. So I'm going to say that these cards here, these 4, are probably some of my favorites that I created during this session. You can see here I'm putting a rectangle at a really weird angle at the bottom. This is my attempt at just creating some interest. And the reason why it's at such an odd angle is because it is an offcut from a previous rectangle. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in the footage, but it is stitched around 3 out of the 4 edges. So that one edge that is not stitched is the one that I just tucked under that 3 by 3 inch panel. So in the end, I got to use it and it looks like a really gorgeous stitched shape, but I managed to hide that it was only a partial component. Here I'm also using some pieces from a previous project, and this was where I had some long panels of 12 by 12 pattern paper, and I put it on top of some white matting layers, and then I used it for a project, and these were the offcuts. So they work out perfectly. If I've put one at the top and the bottom like I've done there, you can't even tell that it doesn't go all the way under, and I don't waste this gorgeous little mint coloured paper. So in the end, this worked out really nicely. I like the 2 combinations, the one with the pink and the mint colour, and then the pink and the navy. I've now moved on to what I would call another batch. So when I said I did them in batches, this was me grabbing the next series of pattern papers to chop down. The one that I had just finished cutting that had the flowers on it, it actually has some foiling, some gold foiling. So it's also one of the really beautiful papers. I mean, they're all very pretty, but there were some in there that I really liked more than others. And so I tried to come up with great ideas for those ones first so that I knew I would end up with a card that really featured that paper and made the best of it. So here I'm using the rest of that pink cardstock. So there was 4 pieces in the pack. And I'm using, again, one of my other favourite papers, and you'll notice here I am not putting a matting layer on. So I've used a very large piece of the dark green to do a really substantial strip down the side. I'm not sure exactly how wide that is, but I'm going to guess and say 2 3/4 inches. It's not quite 3 inches, but definitely wider than the 2 1/4 strips that I would normally have spare and use from my stash. So I've then just chopped a little green square to put a feature element on it. And then normally I'm kind of digging around and trying to figure out what are the sentiments that came in the pack and which ones do I think would make sense to put on a card that I could donate to a charity and then they could get to a happy recipient. So a lot of the cards today are not going to be happy birthday, hello, thank you, the ones that I would traditionally use. They're going to have other sentiments on them. But I didn't use anything that didn't kind of make sense as a sentiment. So if there's items that I felt would have been better for scrapbooking, or if they were for a specific occasion, like Happy Easter, for example, then I did not use any of those today. I just put those aside. And by the time I get through with this project, I actually do still have quite a few leftovers, believe it or not. Now, here I am trying to use the strip that I cut off the bottom that has this gorgeous foiling on it. And I'm kind of mucking around with it, and I'm trying to figure out, am I going to put it lengthwise? Am I going to put it vertically? And in the end, I chopped it down to be a piece of paper that I could put on a vertical card, just sort of straight across to add a little bit of interest. So a lot of chopping and measuring today, and a little bit of matting. So I know I said earlier I was trying to avoid matting layers, but if I felt like the color of the pattern paper was really not going to work well on its own and it needed some separation, then I made sure that I just added what I felt the card needed. I'll also say that with my cards, I either do matting layers or I don't. So you will not see me do no matting layer and then a matting layer on just one piece. I've kind of an all or nothing. So here I'm adding a little bit of cardstock just to prop up the right-hand side so it doesn't dip. And you can see I've matted both of those pattern papers so that they really match nicely together. These little happy birthday half circles have been in my stash since I created a, what was it? A sheet load of cards template. And so I've had them sitting there, and you can see I'm trying to figure out if there's a card design that it works really well with. Now, with this sketch, I feel like maybe I had recently done a Kendra's card challenge when I sat down and made these cards, because this one's feeling quite familiar. So I do think this is probably from Kendra's card challenge number 15. I do not know which one it is. If I can work it out, I will put a link below. But I've certainly, when I do those challenges, I do often remember the sketches and I use them on future projects. There's normally 3 or 4 from doing a full challenge where I create 15 different unique cards that stick with me, and I do use them again. I definitely end up with some favorites. Now you can see here I've got this gorgeous circle, and I'm thinking there has to be a sticker that I can put on this. And sure enough, there are a whole series of circle stickers on this sheet. And what do you know, this one is absolutely the perfect size to go on top of that gorgeous circle die cut that, again, I have from a previous project. So I am going to then add some foam tape behind this one because I want it to stick up a little bit and add a little bit more interest onto the card rather than have it sit down really, really flush onto that little banner that goes across the middle, or the strip across the middle. Now, I said I was going to use foam tape, but this is my fake foam tape, and this is me using scrap cardstock and stacking that up. So you will see me do that quite often. I think quite a few creators use that trick, and it's just a way of making sure that your card is recyclable. And also, I guess it's a little bit cheaper to use your scraps than to invest in additional supplies. Now, the foam tape that comes, it's not foam tape, it's foam squares that come in the kit. They're really thick. I'm going to say they might even be thicker than 3 millimeters, maybe 4 millimeters. And so it's very unusual for me to put something onto a card that sticks up that much. Traditionally, I can do quite a few layers on a card sometimes, but I often don't add a lot of dimension, especially not to just one object. So I'm not sure. I did create these cards some time ago. I'm really not sure if I actually used any of the double-sided foam squares. So we will see as we watch me continue to create some more cards today. If you're enjoying the video, it'd be great if you could hit the like button. This is how YouTube knows to share the video with more viewers. And if you are not subscribed and would consider doing that and hitting the notification bell, then that would be fantastic as well. All right, so I've done my strategy again where I've used some of the papers to use as a background, and then I've added some of the more neutral paper on top so that I can load up some stickers on the top of it, and it will not be too busy for those stickers to be nice and visible. So busy paper at the back and then more muted paper at the front. And this is me 110% out of my comfort zone. I am just adding stickers, layering them up, trying to create something that really looks like some, tasty afternoon treats on that card, which is super cute. And then the 2 milkshakes on the other one. And then when I load it up onto a white card base, then again, I've got that nice white border around the edge. So they worked out quite well in the end. I've come back to this green card. You might have noticed that I put it aside, or maybe you didn't, I'm not sure. But I have put it aside because I got crafting block. I don't know if that's even a phrase, but I was not sure what I was going to do. And you can see here, I'm even just sitting here second guessing what on earth am I going to put onto this card. And the big challenge for me was I really wanted to use this half circle or sort of 3/4 circle. But then I was trying to figure out how am I going to attach that on to this design and make sure it looked complete. So I have buttered it up right next to the pattern paper there. And because the embellishment that I picked was these gorgeous green and pink flowers, they match absolutely perfectly with the pattern paper at the bottom. And then I took a chance and I thought I'm going to use some of these little chipboard, or they actually feel wooden rather than chipboard, these little circles to add some more interest to the card. So in the end, that one worked out really nicely. Now I'm back to some of the really brighter and busier papers. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these. So I'm literally going to cut them down into 2 by 3 inch panels. And then I'm going to see what I can create with the panels themselves. It's a nice versatile size, so I figured I would get inspired somewhere along the way on how to use these panels and make some interesting cards. In the end though, I do think after I went through and matted them all, and again, this is when in doubt, add some white to some pattern paper, and to me it makes it stand out a little bit more. Now, this one is definitely a Jess Crafts sketch. It's one of her A2 no scrap sketches. So I will find out below and credit Jess for this one. I mean, it is literally a very, very simple sketch, but I do remember that the first time I used that, I had some gorgeous cards where I used some, what did I use? I used some Christmas paper to create non-Christmas cards. In fact, I think about 50% of the ones I created were Christmas and the rest were birthday cards, and they were gorgeous. So I will put a link to that video below if you're looking for something else to watch once this one's done. Now, these milkshakes on the pink paper, I really was not sure, and I had this bright yellow, so I just went for it. And so as soon as I had the bright colour on there, I was thinking, how on earth am I going to tie this together with some of the other colours that are on the milkshake paper so that it's not just yellow and pink, which was just, I don't know, in my mind, it was not working as well as I would have liked. So I used these little 1/4 inch strips that I cut off the backing panels, because those backing panels were all originally the size of an A2 card face, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And because I wanted my nice border, I had cut them down. So I had all these little strips of paper, or strips of cardstock actually, that were exactly the same color as some of the previous cards that I had made. So I really just added them as another little piece of interest. And then here I am with these little foam stickers. And oh my gosh, if anyone has this kit and has tried to line up the word fun, it took me forever to try and figure out how to put the F on the card. And even now it looks wonky. But if I did it the way I thought I should, with the top of the F being completely horizontal, it looked like it was falling over. So I stuck with it in the end. But for me, that was a little bit tricky. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see here that I've got fresh air. I'm not really sure, not something I would normally put onto a card. I'm interested to know what you think, though. If you have random sentiments like this, like fresh air, do you use them? I find myself having loads of stickers and sentiments and just unusual words left at the end of this type of project. And because I was challenging myself to try and use everything up, I mean, fresh air is not a bad sentiment, but I guess like you could use it for a birthday, you could use it for a thank you card. I guess the words that you put inside a card are really meaningful as well as what it says on the outside. So maybe some generic cards and a few more of these are going to be appreciated when I donate them. But I was really unsure, and I just thought I really want to use these stickers, so I'm going to go for it. So I guess you do with these little spinners. I don't know what you call them. What do you call these little wind spinner things? I don't know, maybe tell me that in the comments down below as well. You need air to make that move, so maybe that's a nice tie through. So for these 4 cards here with the yellow backing panel, I'm really focused on decorating a 3x3 inch feature square. And so that's probably one of my important tips, is just create a focal space that is smaller than the full card front somehow. And then if you do that, it's sort of easier to create some of these little clusters. I am not very good at it. I am really trying to practice, but I do find layering up little elements a little bit tricky. So I figure with practice, I will get better at it. And so I'm just going to keep on trying. Now, these stickers here that I'm using to add some interest on the strip down the left, they are gold pinstripe stickers from Love from Lizzie, and I just had those in my stash. So it seemed like a really nice way to really jazz these cards up a little bit, because the gold just glitters a little bit and adds a little bit more interest to the front of those cards. Now, with this final panel here, I'm using some of the leftovers, and I was trying to work out again, what am I going to do to add some interest on this card? And I've got this little strip of navy, and so I've added that on top of the pattern paper here, which is nice because it adds just that little bit of interest to it. But then I realized, okay, I'm going to go through and use these little white rectangles from my stash. I'm going to try and create some little clusters and add a little bit of interest. And again, this is in double time, I think, maybe triple time. And I was trying not to overthink it and just add the stickers. But with that one in particular, I feel like the mistake I made was putting 2 things down really separated at the start. And then I just spent the whole time trying to figure out how was I going to try and connect it. So I did that with the little, is there a caterpillar and a couple of little ladybugs. So, it's a nice little spring theme, which makes sense from the Spring Delight kit. But again, here I am with my little foil strips down the left-hand side. Now, I really didn't want to waste the beautiful pattern paper that is underneath that navy strip and then the foil, but it did give me a really good idea on how I could create some little bits of interest that I could pop onto future cards. So I think you might see me do a little bit more of that in one of the future little sets that I create here. But in the meantime, I've got myself some navy and I am just adding on these gorgeous little fruit cards. Now, with, again, the yellow strips tying into the lemons that are part of the design, that is going to add some interest, tie everything in together nicely. And so next I'm going to have to figure out, I've now got these little 2x3 rectangles that are kind of staggered, and they're not interesting enough to hold the card in their own right. If I'd had a beautiful pattern paper as the top layer, so instead of the green and white check, then traditionally you might see me just add a small sentiment and then be done with it. But the way I've done these cards, I've created it so that these little rectangles on the right-hand side, that's where I'm going to create some interest with some of the stickers and some of the leftovers. So again, that's the common theme where you'll see me try and create some space where I can add some of these elements and then just work from there. So this one here that I've just popped down in the bottom corner, this one's like it's like a really, really thick chipboard. So you saw that I'm actually putting glue on the back of some of these to make sure that they really stick well and stay. They are stickers, but just because of the way I'm putting them onto these card fronts, I don't want them to fall off. So a little bit of extra liquid glue is not going to hurt. And those ones are gorgeous. They're like a little strawberry and a little lemon. Super, super cute. I've now moved on to try and distract myself from all the little rectangles because I did have quite a few of them still to go. And so I thought I'm going to use all these little stamp stickers and then just create a little interesting cluster of stamps on the left. And then maybe if I add a sentiment, then that will create a super cute, really easy little card and really make the most of some of the gorgeous elements that are in the kit itself. So that was another card completed. So now I've created myself some black backing panels. So I went and got some more stuff from my stash to top up the kit, which is 100% perfect. There is so much in this kit that there is no way it makes 8 cards. You could make I reckon you could make 100. I mean, honestly, you could make so many cards. I made loads, and I will try and count how many I made to put it in the description below, but I just kept creating more and more and more in little groups of sort of 4 or 5. And I did create these over multiple days. So I jumped around quite a bit, came back and tried to create a few more cards. And then at one point, I think I even moved this project off my workspace, and then I did something else, and then I came back to it again to complete things. So this project has been worked on for quite a number of weeks to create some cards. Now, I'm starting to get down to a few of the elements where I'm just not sure what I'm going to use or how I'm going to do it. And with these little sentiments, I was trying to work out which of the little circles I could use and that would make sense on a card. And in the end, I decided that there was a couple of them that just had little designs on them. Like one of them just has a number 2, like a random. And so I just lined up a few of them, making sure that only one had a sentiment, and then added 3 of them down the left-hand side of this little rectangle. And that actually worked out kind of cute in the end. Now for this final one here, again, just grabbing some stickers, trying to do some flowers and florals together and layer those up. I don't think I ended up using that folding chair. I can see that kind of lilac coloured folding chair above the sentiment in the top of my screen. And I still think that that is left. I'm really not sure how I would incorporate that chair into a design. Maybe if I practice doing some scenes and some cards that have I guess I could try and use it. I don't know. If I dig out the ephemera set and I use that down the track, maybe I'll use the ephemera and then some of the leftover things from this project. And that means that I will use up more and more of it. Now, I'm kind of curious, what do you do with your leftovers if you use things like card kits or sticker sets? I am hopeless at throwing things away. I want to keep everything, make the most of it, not waste anything. But what I have done recently is I have a box that is beside my craft space. And when I have used everything I feel like I can out of either a pattern paper or some stickers or any crafty items, if I think those items could be used to create more, I then put them into the box and I'm going to donate them to a local holiday program. So in particular, when I'm putting things into the box, I think, would they be something that maybe primary school age or even early high school age kids would possibly use to create some cards for family and friends? And if I think that it's workable for them, then I pop it in the box. And then if not, I just pop it in my recycling and then I move on. But honestly, it's very, very rare for me to come up with something that I feel like I can't use, which is why when I do projects like this, you'll see things like the blue and white section in the middle of my screen right now. And I have not thrown those away. I just feel like there will be a perfect design or a perfect card at some point that could really do with that little touch of interest. So I have them sitting on my desk to see if this is the project. The little elements that I'm creating at the moment might look a little bit unusual, but what I've done is I've measured out what is the size of the pattern paper on the card bases that you can see in top left of the screen. And I believe they are 4 inches by 4 inches paper squares. And so what I'm doing now is I'm basically creating something that is 4 inches wide and then it's 1¼ inches deep. And this is going to allow me to add it and keep the white border around the edge of the card, but have it butt up right next to this pattern paper. So it's almost like I've created some little design features that are going to create some interest for all of these cards. So this was inspired by the previous one where I had a strip of pattern paper and it looked a little boring on its own. So I loaded it up a little bit with some of these cardstock strips. So here I am thinking, hang on a minute, I can probably create some little elements to pop on the edge of these cards to make them a little bit more interesting. Again, very unusual approach for me, but I'm using up all of these little bits here and then also adding some interest to the cards without needing to dig into my stash or add extra pattern paper or anything else. So You can just see it's got the Kraft and then a strip of pattern paper and then the cardstock, and then I've added some of the Love from Lizzie strips onto each of these as well, so that they have a nice gold stripe that again just adds that little bit of interest. These papers that I'm using for these particular cards are probably the ones that I'm least likely to have picked as my favorites. They are floral and for some reason they remind me of wallpaper. I don't know. I'm sure that they will be absolutely loved by the person who receives them, but they're probably not my first choice. So I ended up adding the interest down the left-hand side and then working out how do I put something on top that's going to sort of diffuse those patterns a little bit. And this is where, again, working on a smaller space now, this 4x4, and then grabbing a couple of my leftover elements, whether it's rectangles or squares or just anything that I can add here that's going to finish these cards off so that they are interesting. I was really impressed that I managed to use up one of the half circles with a happy birthday on it. And so I challenged myself to use those final two on these two cards. Now, for the flowers on the right-hand side that I'm doing now, I felt like they were interesting enough that just adding the happy birthday was enough. But for the other one, I felt like I needed to add something on top. So I had one of these little remaining little things of flowers. It was absolutely the perfect size. And then I was able to put the happy birthday on top and it fitted perfectly into that square. So there are a lot of happy accidents I find when I am card making. And if you put something aside for long enough, you will find the perfect card to add it to. I truly believe that. Happens to me all the time. Now, I have all these little leftover strips here, and I've decided, similar to before when I created the 2x3 inch rectangles, I'm just going to mat all of these and then just see where it leads me. A lot of them are different sizes and shapes, but it doesn't matter when you're laying them out in a design like this. Literally, it's just about trying to find a combination for the horizontal and the vertical that will be a little bit interesting. There's some smaller pieces of leftover pattern paper that I've also matted, and so I'm just running through and trying to figure out that combination where things match up really nicely. It is a lot easier in this circumstance where you're using one card kit or things that are from a similar collection, because it just means that naturally the papers kind of match each other. Here you'll see this is my other trick to creating simple cards, and that is circle sentiments. I have another video on my channel about how to create these in bulk. There are 4 Lawn Form Magic Messages stamp sets, and they work perfectly with the Tim Holtz stacked Thinlit dies, so you can create loads of those super easily, and I highly recommend you add them to your stash. I have put another video here that I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.